Hello and welcome to Counterpressed on The Ringer and Spotify. I'm in the studio with Becky, Taylor-Gill and Jessy Humphreys. On today's show, all eyes were at Old Trafford for Mary Earps's return, but actually the real drama was happening in Munich as Arsenal let a 2-goal lead slip and lost to Bayern Munich. We'll talk about all of those big games as well as Chelsea's big win against St Polten. Lots of drama to get into for the Champions League. Okay, guys, fun one last night.
I felt like this was the first really enjoyable double header of the year, maybe. Don't know, sometimes I feel a bit lonely that Chelsea have to play on a day where there's no other English teams.
Yeah.
You know? And then
It's
Arsenal
nice.
and Manchester United are like,
all about you.
they're like girlfriends together and they have to play at the same time. I don't know. I just feel like they've got
some chemistry going on and you're just on the sideline.
Yeah. Also had my first nightmare about Chelsea Barcelona last night. So
Wow.
What happened?
Sleepless nights.
In the nightmare, it's because last night I was planning getting tickets for the game for a group. And then in the nightmare, it was like suddenly I was buying like 35 tickets. Hilarious. Have nowhere near that many friends. If I invited everyone I know, I wouldn't have 35 tickets. But then the Chelsea, like when I printed them off, for some reason I was printing them off.
Yeah, of course.
There was only 15 and half of them were for under 18s. I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, maybe my sister can pretend to be under 18.
Wow, this dream analysis.
Yeah.
What do you think the root of this is?
I think it was just about being anxious about buying the ticket. I don't know why I'm anxious about buying like 10 tickets.
No
to
offence
Chelsea
to
Barcelona.
Stamford Bridge Champions League nights, but it ain't selling out.
I think it'll be fine. I think even if I want 35, I'll be okay.
You could probably get away.
You could get them anywhere you wanted.
Yeah.
That is such a funny stress dream.
I got really excited because there was such good football. And I was like, my friend Gaia has already booked at Oslo, like Airbnb.
She's always ahead of the game.
Organised. And I was like, right, I'm going to book my tickets. I've been really good at budgeting this month. I was like, I'm going to take the hit now because it will be cheaper. I accidentally booked it through a third-party website. I have never accidentally done that before. And I've never booked through a third-party website before. But it was like, have you seen Google these days? It's crazy.
This sounds like the start of your stand-up routine.
Anybody on Google these days?
That is the most boomer.
No, I felt
line
like such a boomer. I was so fuming with myself. I was like, I'm like a grandma. If you go on Google these days on a laptop, it's like 10 adverts before you get to the actual thing.
Yeah.
And like the 5th advert down was like Norwegian Airlines with a sneaky little logo that looks very much like the Norwegian Airlines logo.
It was
Why
a scam.
weren't you just on Skyscanner?
I was, and then it was like I wanted to get the exact same flights as my friends, so I was like, oh, I'll just go on to Norwegian because couldn't get the configuration right on Skyscanner. And when I was like, I'm being smart, I'm going direct to the website.
Was it a scam?
No, they have sent me my tickets. But
Yeah, also I've booked through third-party stuff all the time.
when I realised I went on Trustpilot.
No, but all of these things always say this. I had a little bit of anxiety about this because I did my Australia flights
Oh, interesting.
on
Yeah,
a third-party
I
thing,
did-
and I survived. I'm back here in
Yeah,
London.
yeah.
When I went
and
to-
you made it to Australia and you made it back.
Yeah,
so.
but to be fair, my luggage didn't. I don't think that was anything.
That's what I said,
Third
third party. I did that when I went to Argentina. I had the similar thing, and I was getting all these phone calls from this random travel agency in like Hounslow, and I had no idea what was going on. I was
This
so
is like
confused.
But go on like
a
Trustpilot
Malaysian
for like
company.
EasyJet, and the
Yeah.
reviews will
Yes,
be like.
and it is like it's all like my flight was cancelled and then it was like really a nightmare to get a refund. So I'm like, okay, as long as I don't get bumped from my flight, as long as my flight is fine. And they sent me through the Norwegian booking and I checked on the website and it's all legit. But there was like an hour period where I was like,
Can't wait
losing
until-
my mind.
May, and you're actually like in Istanbul or something.
Well, it was a Malaysian company, so I'll be in Kuala Lumpur.
I had that as well when I was doing an Esther, and if you type in like US Esther, the first 3 links are all like third-party ones that add on another like 20
Yeah.
quid, not the US government website. I've been done with that.
I had that with my work
And I had
visa.
to call
stupid.
Amex, and I was like, I've been scammed.
Yeah.
And then they refunded me, and I
I
started
was
again.
so stupid because it was like £20 processing fee and I was like, what the fuck? And then what's really fucking annoying is I went on to, sorry, this is actually probably not very interesting to people.
No,
You're
know
locked
I
in.
love
You're
it.
locked in. I went on and then I went on the Norwegian website because I was like, why the hell am I paying a £20 fee to pay because it was like when I put my card details in, and on their website it was like it like made it seem like it was Brexit. So I was like, okay, fine, like Brexit's fucked me, I have to pay this 20 quid. No, that was the third party taking my 20 quid. So I just spent 20 quid to be less secure and feel worried.
I will say as well, anyone who books through the train line, you're paying a booking fee for literally nothing. Go direct to the train company.
I'm a
And you
I'm
can
a
go
train
on any
user.
train, but I do train line is quite easy.
It's so easy.
But you're not.
But no, I use
Just
the
go
banking
straight
now.
to the service provider. It's annoying because you've got 8,000 different logins
But you
for all the different private
can,
companies.
I think, book
but
any train through any service provider.
Oh, that's
I believe.
interesting.
And that's the end of the podcast.
Done.
Wow.
That is the most
that
counter-press
bombshell
conversation ever. Like,
on that
God.
insane
What if
bombshell.
we become the new, younger, fresher Martin Lewises?
That would be my dream.
That is, I can see you going into
my
consumer
God.
media flow.
Well, Jeanette Quetcher, who does Champions League, but is also
Yes.
Martin Lewis's sidekick. I am
is she?
yeah,
What
on
a
the
great
ITV show. She always comes in with the hot tips because she's always like, we're doing student loan stuff, we're doing mortgage stuff, and I'm like, right on there.
Jeanette.
Yeah.
Get her on the pod.
Get
Yeah.
Jeanette
Get see
cameo.
her football money saving expert.
Worlds collide. Okay, that's enough logistical admin chat, but you know we love it, so there'll always be more of that on Counterpress. Let's get into Bayern Munich 3, Arsenal 2 next. Okay, so I wasn't really sure if this was going to be the main topic, the first game we were going to talk about today, but because of the last sort of half an hour of this game, it definitely became main character. So Arsenal ended up losing 3-2 to Bayern Munich. They went 2-0 up in the first half. Bayern came back, all guns blazing in the second half. 3 goals, big substitutions that swung the game. A really bad showing for Arsenal. And Jessy, what adds kind of more added layer of chaos is it's a repeat of what we saw last season in Jonas Alderweireld's, what was his penultimate game in the end, when they lost to Bayern in Munich, and it had exactly the same sort of messy, chaotic energy, and now a year later, we're back here again with Arsenal.
Yeah, and with Pernilla Harder as well, right? Obviously, last year she absolutely killed it. I mean, she was pretty immense when she came on this year. I think the frustration for Arsenal will obviously be like, I think unlike that game under Alderweireld, where maybe I think everyone knew that Arsenal were a bit like topsy-turvy, Arsenal were in total control in the first half. They could have gone in 3 or 4 goals ahead. Blackstenius hits the bar post, can't remember exactly what bit, the frame of the goal, at one point, and Bayern looked awful. Like, they were just like moths to a flame around the ball, and then one of Palova or Mariona would just like turn away from the pressure and there'd be all this space ahead of them. But then in the second half, as the subs get made, Bayern it felt like they kind of smelled blood a little bit. I mean, obviously that first goal from Alara gets them back into it, and from then on it just felt like it just descended further into chaos for Arsenal, and they couldn't really get hold of the momentum. And I guess what's funny as well is, like, coming off the back of the Saturday game against Chelsea, it was almost like Arsenal got a bit of taste of their own medicine, where, against Chelsea it felt like the momentum really swung Arsenal's way, and it becomes one of those things in football where you almost start to move into these intangibles, although of course, like, it relates to your tactics and your subs. And I think, taking Blackstenius off, for example, and you lose that ability maybe to stretch the game when a team's coming at you. You bring Marnham on, who doesn't necessarily offer you the same amount of like control in midfield. All of those issues just felt like they compounded. I mean, Harder's strike is brilliant, obviously, but then, yeah, Vigastottir popping up to get the winner.
Do you think Slagers is in trouble?
I think that woman can do anything for at least a season, given that she won the Champions League.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I'll get onto that because I was doing a scroll last night to kind of assess what the vibe was and the conversation was online amongst Arsenal fans. And it is the first time I have seen a bit of a real frustration, not necessarily on Sleggers specifically, but more on the hierarchy around the lack of recruitment and how you look at that squad now and it's so clear, how old it is, how the development's not being great. And I think wrapping that up with maybe inexperience from Sleggers as well, and kind of adding that all together, but not necessarily sort of using her as the reason that this happened. Becky, was even more frustrating for Arsenal is they were so aggressive in that first half, had so much success with their press. Bayern was so poor in possession, kept giving the ball away. And in the second half, they went to a bit more of a simple, like going more direct, as well as being smarter with the passes they made. And Arsenal just didn't really respond. And I think that felt a bit naive from Sleggers, and that the changes she made, they disrupted her team, but they didn't also solve any of the problems that she was seeing unravel on the pitch. And I think that also adds the sort of, it was almost their own undoing. Obviously, it's a great response from Barkla to kind of wrestle the game back, but also it felt like Arsenal had the chance to respond themselves and didn't.
It's like two completely separate teams came out at halftime, like from both sides. When that first Bayern goal goes in, obviously I was doing a hate watch. I've been told to behave by Flo, so I will say I was doing a little hate watch, and I was like, I still think that Arsenal can, like, that's like a wake up call for them, and like it just didn't wake them up at all. In fact, I think it just went the other way, and it's frustrating to watch because they were so dominant in the first half, and it's just all unravelled in a way that is, it's just, I don't know, it's just really frustrating to watch them this season, because I think they're very up and down. There's like, when you were talking then, I was thinking of this meme that I have that I have often like related to Arsenal women, which is like, when we figure this out, it's over for you bitches. And it just feels like every time I think, oh, they've figured it out, like, okay, winning the Champions League last year was kind of crazy, and it wasn't maybe like expected, and it wasn't really like, oh, okay, yeah, they've figured it out and that's why they've won. They've finally clicked and it's all clicked into place. It still felt a bit like, oh, that was kind of crazy. But I felt like after a Champions League win, like that is the time when everything clicks into place and you think, okay, like the confidence is there, like the squad is there, even if they are, aging. And I just don't feel like that's happened. And it's actually really frustrating to watch with Arsenal, because I think they do a lot of things really well, like off the pitch as well. And it just doesn't, I don't know why it can't all just come together and like work. But it just doesn't seem to have done that since like 2019, 2018?
Yeah, 2019 was the last time
they won.
Yeah.
I think what I'd find frustrating if I was an Arsenal fan is the feeling that the conversations are the same, which I think is kind of what you're getting at there. And I think, definitely squad is something that we've talked about for a while. And, you can see sort of, I think, evidence of it in the Chelsea game and the Bayern game of like how reliant they are on Kim Little, for example. And, in the Chelsea game, they were able to get on top of Chelsea. But, we spoke on Monday how Chelsea should probably feel frustrated that they kind of didn't make the most of getting those opportunities in the first half, where it felt like, they had the run of the midfield. Okay, here, actually, I thought Mariona and Palova did look good in the first half, but it felt like as Bayern adjusted, they weren't able to find, say, the control that was going to let, Arsenal be able to hold on to their 2-goal cushion. And, everyone's known for years, for example, that Little and Leah Volti, who obviously did move on in the summer, weren't going to be able to play forever. Little is someone who is remarkable, the level she plays at when she's fit, but we know every season we're going to get absences like this. There's always a couple of weeks where she's not available, and that's just the reality of her age and her body. But it just seems crazy to me to have kind of known this. Do you know what I mean? Like, aging players is not a surprise. If you end up with a load of, when they had all the ACLs, that's really hard to deal with. It's really hard to deal with the squad from a squad building perspective, because, you can't necessarily just automatically bring players in, because you've got to think about what your squad's going to look like when those players come back. It obviously happens like outside of transfer windows, but like the idea that your squad's getting older and you might need to like bring players in and replace them is something that feels like quite easy to understand. But Arsenal just don't, as a hierarchy, don't seem to have been able to plan for that. And I don't know if that's due to the relationship between manager and front office, you know, in terms of the impression seems to be that Slagers is someone who is very much like, I'm going to coach. Whereas Ideval maybe felt like a bit more involved in transfers. I don't know exactly like if that's
go
true
get
or not.
all those blonde bitches
Yeah.
and bring them to me.
And like it's hard to know exactly, like, without being an insider, like how much that's true or not. But certainly with Slagers, it feels like there are players, you know, she doesn't necessarily like and she doesn't really want to use. But it just, I think that lack of coherence maybe between transfer policy, management and development of players, it's that sort of triangle which I think feels like it keeps holding Arsenal back year on year.
The development one is the big one as well, because they have attempted to recruit younger players and so many of them never hang around very long, don't get minutes, and then it becomes a whole conversation and then they leave again. We've seen that rinse and repeat, and I think it's going to be a challenge for them in January. I think it's going to be a challenge for them in the upcoming, in this next summer window as well, because the longer you keep, I mean, unsurprisingly, they've got the oldest average age in the WSL, 28. And
over the hill.
Every single window, there's an expectation that some of the older players will move on and some of them end up signing new contracts. And I think a lot of people were surprised that Leah Volti was the only senior big departure in the summer, because there was an expectation that more of those players, I mean, obviously Beth Mead was heavily linked to London City Lionesses and Manchester United, ends up staying. Obviously she's played a part in their season, but that then prevents the progress and development of another player. And I think it's the same when you look at Ford's age, Catley, McCabe, Little, like obviously huge important servants for the club, but all of them are players that probably other teams would have moved on. And I think it's interesting when you look at the conversation online after the game last night, that was dominating. Less so about Sleggers, because obviously she's kind of had this really quick rise and had that huge achievement winning the Champions League. And that is always going to be, you give her legendary status and make her a little bit untouchable for many reasons. But now she's inherited this squad who are a bit kind of half and half. You've got the younger players they're trying to bring up. Katie Reed being the prime example, obviously now got that horrible ACL injury, but she was the player looking to the future. But then you've got other positions where that's not quite clicking.
I feel like they've got one young star at a time. And you need to look bigger than that, but it's like, oh, we've got this one that we're going to bring through. And obviously, like with Katie Reed, like she's done her ACL, now it's like, where do you look?
I also think there had to be under Sleggers for her future. You couldn't just appoint her. There had to be the huge squad reset that happened with it. And now you've got the kind of worst of both worlds. You've got a young manager who probably wanted to do that reset, but a squad that hasn't got through that process either. And she's only also contracted until next summer.
Well, I don't know if she does want to do that reset. I mean, potentially, but there is more stuff that she could have done that she's not choosing not to do, right? Like, I know there's some suggestion that maybe Chloe Kelly isn't fully fit, although obviously she did start both games for England, but so she's not really playing at the moment. Unclear why that is. And I mean, Chloe Kelly is actually old, so no offense, Kev. But like, she's not like
I
the
love
young...
talking about
her
footballers.
role also
in like a,
but
she
so...
is an old bitch.
No,
she's like
Chloe
27.
Kelly is she tricks me.
How old is she?
I think she's like 27, 28.
Yeah, she's older than you think.
I'm always
That's crazy,
convinced she's
I'm
like
she was a child
24.
bride to me.
Yeah, but she's not.
She's not.
No, but I
27.
think the Chloe Kelly's role this season is not as a starter anyway.
But okay, but like, and Liv Smith, obviously, like, she had a knock on international break. Again, I guess not entirely clear how fit she is, but it's just so funny that Beth Mead and Caitlin Ford are still their starting wingers. And to be fair, like, both of them have their moments, but you're just like, I just maybe want a little bit more. And it like feels like there are options there, but it feels like Slagers kind of like likes these older players as a comfort blanket, which I also understand as, you know, a coach. But I guess what's surprising is you feel like after the Champions League win, maybe she'd be ready to take some more of those risks that come with, you know, having to endure maybe not as good performances. Like, for example, with, say, Kyra Cooney-Cross. Like, maybe there are going to be moments where she doesn't look very good, but you go for that in the long-term kind of payoff. But it feels like Slagers can be quite risk averse. And I guess that this is kind of also where I feel like she's got some culpability for last night in terms of, you know, it feels like her subs are so pre-planned and preset that you can kind of like write them down before the game starts. And so then when stuff is maybe changing in front of you, you're like, well, you know, maybe you do need to keep Stina on. You can't push Alessia up and then have another 10 come on. You know, like that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, this is like happening now. You know,
you
like
have to work it out in the moment.
But
Like
it doesn't
all oppositions are going to be different, and you have to be flexible to that. But if she's doing the same thing over and over again,
and it's funny, it feels then very outcome driven because like the sub she made, that it's obviously very similar. They're like the same sub she made as against Chelsea, right? But against Chelsea, everyone's like, woo, because it's like Arsenal almost came back and won that game. Whereas against Bayern, it's like bad. But I'm like, it just kind of shows that like if you do the same thing, it's not going to come up with the same outcome in every scenario.
I also feel like for the older Arsenal players like Beth Mead, who has like served that club so well, it's like a bit of like a way to end. You know, if you keep her past when she can really serve that team, and I think, you know, I think we're kind of agreeing that like maybe we're reaching that point where like she's not.
But she does have good moments. I think this is what's funny because, like, I think Ford, like, for
Moments
example,
aren't enough.
well, I think this is, like, it kind of reminds me of, like, Guru Wrighton. No offence, baby mama, Guru Wrighton.
Congratulations, Guru Wrighton.
But who I feel like for Chelsea, I can watch and will play and be, like, 6, 7 out of 10. Like, not tip-top Guru Wrighton, but, like, not bad, just, like, solid. And I feel like Chelsea could happily have carried on playing her, but obviously they're trying to move on. And I think that's sometimes what's hard with discussing like Ford and Mead is like, I don't feel like saying they're bad, because they're not always bad, but they're just like fine.
It's the difference between a starter and an option, and those are not what, if you're pushing for a WSL title, domestic cups and going far in the Champions League, they are not starters. I mean, I think that's the reality.
You can discard the WSL for them because that ain't happening. So
no, but I'm saying if you would be, if that's what you're going for.
Yeah,
and I think that has been that has been a challenge for them. And I also think the reality is if you're holding on to older players who are on very good contracts, they probably won't want to move. It's very hard to move people on when they're getting paid a salary which the majority of the WSL will not match and will not fulfill.
I agree, but I also don't think that's why Beth Mead isn't moving on. Like, I think she still thinks I train well and I play well and I will get picked, and she is getting picked.
I mean, if you're getting picked, I don't think it's
a case of she's like, oh, I'm sitting on this nice money, because she's going to get paid wherever she goes.
But the issue for Arsenal is this will keep happening unless the serious reset comes.
Well, and what's funny
it probably won't come in January because that kind of thing's not going to happen in mid-season, but we will see some changes. And then in the summer, that's when you've got to see the serious moves.
As much as I, like, think it's really funny, this match, and, like, do you think it's funny when Arsenal are chaotic, I do just think it's frustrating because I'm like, when is that all going to click?
Can I do a little bit un-Arsenal inquesty, because I think it's very easy, obviously, with the nature of the result, to want to be like, Arsenal. But given the way, you know, I think the way this Champions League phase is working, everyone's sort of trying to figure out how it's going to look. Arsenal have played their 2 hardest matches in their opening 3 fixtures. They've got Real Madrid, Twente and Leuven still to go.
Hey, don't underestimate my Leuven girls.
I'm not, well, and I mean, I think the pressure is on Arsenal to get good results. In the same way the pressure's kind of been placed on Chelsea because they drew with Twente. You know, like, you have to go and get good results. But if you take 9 points from that, okay, maybe they won't manage to finish top 4 with 12 points. And, you know, adding in extra games in an already, you know, quite tight schedule is not what any team wants. I think what we probably will see is that there will be a big benefit for finishing it in that top 4. But, like, Arsenal are going to probably qualify. They're not going to go out the Champions League. I think if you look at the fixtures still to come, and that at least gives them, you know, breathing room, not in terms of their schedule, but breathing room to get back into this. And I guess, almost Arsenal's run in the Champions League last year kind of shows that, like, you're not out of this competition until you're actually out of it. So I do think it's easy, especially given the nature of throwing away the 2-goal lead, to be very like, but I'm also like, it will be interesting to see how this stuff actually plays out.
I think it also comes back to the expectations lifting. Of course, after you win the Champions League, the expectations are that you're going to do very well in that competition again and you're going to be challenging the UWCL again. But actually, if like we say, the squad doesn't change that much, then really what is the reality? I think it obviously, when you look at their first run of fixtures, they had Lyon as their opener game. That is a hell of a tough game. Lost that. Then they beat Benfica. That's expected. The Bayern result probably is disappointing, given we know that there's chaos around that fixture. Not only the Eidevall one, but even when they hosted them at Meadow Park last season, they only just about scraped through. That
in the gale.
That nearly was their exit from the Champions League. So there's always a bit of madness with Bayern. But I think that will leave them hurting, because the composed and confident Arsenal that we have seen in the Champions League at times, that's the version they would have wanted to see to build on the confidence of the Chelsea result. And I think for a lot of these fans, it's like not getting that calmness and consistency, which makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable. But also I think we need to give credit to Bayern and their second half performance, because on the basis of that first half, I thought, how big is this lead going to be? This could be a really embarrassing game for Bayern.
Also, again, after losing to Barcelona, what's that?
7-1, yeah. And it was interesting, Georgia Stanway, that Barca game was away from home, but Georgia Stanway said after the game that they've had these real first half issues at the Allianz. She said every single time we play at the stadium,
she said they get nervous.
We play badly in the first half and then we kind of resettle in the second half. And she said the more we play here, the better it's getting, but it's frustrating how chaotic we are. So they sort of, reference and understand the madness that they cause themselves when they play in that stadium, and that's probably going to be interesting as they move forward, whether they can put that right, because they are a bit of a yo-yo team in this competition, and I think the jury is also out on them sort of long term on where they go in Europe. But I think it was very impressive to see how they turned around that game, regardless of how Arsenal didn't react and sort of were masters of their own demise. I think Barkla and Bayern deserve a lot of credit, and Georgia Stanway.
And Clara Bull, 3 hat-trick of assists.
Yeah. For that performance, as much as people will see it as Arsenal kind of throwing it away, Bayern's second half was brilliant.
Yeah, and I think, I guess when we're thinking about Bayern, who've had a sort of tendency to bottle in the Champions League, it would have been easy, I think, for them once they were 2 goals down, especially with the Barcelona experience, to like have their heads really go down. I think, for example, being able to bring players like Harder on, who have so much experience in the competition, that's something that really helps. To an extent, it kind of feels like one of those things where, as I say, like momentum like manages to carry them through. But yeah, it's a really big confidence boosting win for them, and it will be interesting to see, because they've obviously not had a great start either. This is why the league phase is feels like a lot of fun, and is going to be really interesting, because it feels like every team's trying to figure it out. It's really hard to know how many points do you need to get top 4, how many points do you need to get top 12, like how all of these things going to impact. How bad is it if you lose to the 2 pot 1 teams, as Arsenal have done. And, as I say, like, for example, Chelsea are yet to play either of their pot 1 teams. So it feels like we could see a lot of swings still. But yeah, like, it's obviously a great win for Bayern. And I mean, the Bayern-Arsenal random rivalry has been a really enjoyable thing too. I was talking to, because we were at Spurs on whatever day we were at Spurs, and we were talking about like United Tottenham, and like how that's become such a fun random rivalry that doesn't really map on in like quite the same way to the men's game. And I feel like Bayern Arsenal also has that kind of energy to it.
I love a women's specific rivalry, especially when it has like stupid roots, like
just
this
like
is
silly
just, like,
law.
stupid games.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough Arsenal chat. I'm sure lots of Arsenal fans will have their thoughts as well. Let's get into Manchester United PSG after this. So all eyes were on Old Trafford because, of course, it was Mary Earp's return game back at Manchester United.
All the boos, they were fun.
Well, it dominated the lead
drama.
up.
I love drama and gossip.
It dominated the lead up to the game. Of course, Mark Skinner was asked about it.
Also, so funny. Did you read the quote or did you watch it? Because it's really funny how he says at the beginning of the press conference after he's asked, he's like, I don't read. And then he pauses and then I didn't read the book, but it's just I don't read. Like, okay, Mark, no, fine.
It's giving Julie Flatty.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Well, obviously, there's lots of questions before we get to the game. In the end, she wasn't really the main character by the final whistle. Manchester United beat PSG 2-1. And I want to kind of start by saying it feels like a real breakthrough night for Manchester United. They don't get a lot of chances to play at Old Trafford for various reasons. And we know there's always been conversation about how much does the hierarchy support the women's team, Jim Ratcliffe's sloppy comments and interviews in the past, etc., etc. But this night is such a positive because they had around 13,000 at Old Trafford, which may not seem like a lot in the kind of context of the size of Old Trafford, but for midweek Champions League for any team, that's a good amount. I think Bayern had 15,000, which is really strong for midweek. They had 13,000 at Old Trafford. The camera was pointed at the crowd, which makes a hell of a lot of difference because it looks busy. I thought the atmosphere was good. The weather was awful.
Perfect.
It was absolutely pissing it down in Manchester. We had some boos from Mary Earps. There was a lot of things that created what was a really exciting atmosphere. And then you get this layer of huge pre-match nerves because the news comes out about the team. No Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who's their absolute rock. We know, joint Golden Glove winner last season, being absolutely immense. She's out. So Saf Milton-Patel has to come in.
Fortunately, they have another double-barrelled goalkeeper.
Thank God.
Thank God.
The counter-press says, thank God.
For double-barrelled people.
She's young. She's not as experienced. We obviously saw her play in Europe, but she's not played a lot for Manchester United. This is a huge moment for her to come in and start in the Champions League.
Second start for United.
PSG as well at Old Trafford. This is the biggest game that they've built in their league phase. This is the one they've really gone for. She has to come in, and speaking to Manchester United fans last night, they were really nervous about that because, of course, this is the Champions League. We've seen how much a step up this is for anyone. And also, when you look at a team like PSG, who haven't been great, they haven't got any points yet in the league phase, and they've been a bit ropey in domestically as well. But I thought she was so composed. The list of good performances last night. You start with Milton Patel, but you've got Jade Riviere, who was named Player of the Match. She had a great performance, but for me, Jess Park and Melvin Mallard were, for me, the standouts. I thought Mallard took her goal
Mallard's
so
finish
nicely,
was beautiful.
and I think she is just I felt like it's been hard for her at Manchester United because sometimes she's been in and out of the team in rotation, and I'm not always sure that Skinner's used her consistently in the right way. He's almost in the past used her for when they want to play a certain team a certain way. But now she is looked at as the starter when in United's best team. And I think you can see that confidence in her, not only in the way she takes her goals, but the way she celebrates her goals. She is just buzzing right now, and it's so fun to watch. And then Jess Park last night, the BBC did a little clip up of her performance and some of her highlights, and it's just ridiculous. And I know United fans are running out of things to say on her because just every single game she's insane, but her calmness on the ball, we're seeing her kind of elevated into this complete playmaker role at United, whereas obviously at City, it's she broke through as a 17-year-old playing out wide. Then we see her play as an 8, not really as a 10, in last season. And then Miedemar was kind of playing in this advanced 8 role. But with United, it's literally just get in there and just do whatever you want, control the game, create the opportunities. She was just slaloming through challenges. And this is against experienced international players against PSG. Sets up the role for second goal, which was just such a nice team move. I was just really impressed with United. given the context of everything, given what they had to kind of rattle with, Janssen also out suspended, Gabby George having to start centre-back, I think she did really well as well. I was, just really, really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think they certainly held their own. Like it wasn't a dominant performance by any means, but I don't think you'd have expected that against PSG. We spoke a lot about on Monday about how the Villa loss would look in light of the PSG game, and I guess Skinner probably claws himself back some kind of justification in terms of rotating the team a little bit there. And there was some bold calls. Obviously, Simi Woodry starting for the first time this season. I thought at points, she looked a little bit nervy. I did think it took Park a while to get into the game, but when she got going, it felt like, as you say, like she can really she can just make stuff happen, and I think you really saw that. I don't want to take away from United's performance because I think they did everything they needed to do, but I thought PSG were pretty woeful, especially when you talk about the changes United had to make. Only having 2 shots on target, and Saf Middleton Patel makes a great save at the start of the second half, but that just feels like just get some shots off for a goalkeeper who's never played in the Champions League before,
especially early.
Put her
under pressure, make her a bit wobbly.
George as well playing at centre back. I thought PSG is so weird because it's just this like totally crazy collection of players where you're a bit like, oh God, like she's there and then it's like a 17-year-old you've never heard of.
Yes, I had that moment last night with
Crystal Dunn.
No, not even.
Carmona.
Olga Carmona.
With Olga Carmona, when she scored.
Yeah.
I was like,
"What you doing here,
bitch? When did you get here? I didn't know you were there."
Yeah. So,
well, there was also a moment in the first half when I was quite worried for Sandberg because she was getting absolutely cooked on that side, and I thought, okay, this is where the opportunities are going to come, and then it just faded. PSG is just such a fading side. It's like they've got players who can create these individual moments, but they just disappear from games.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this team, like I was kind of thinking back to when United played PSG in the 2-legged qualifying playoff, and they were playing. I think at the time it was Baltimore, Katoto, and Chawinga as their front three, and obviously Baltimore scores that incredible goal against Erbs. And it just felt like watching that team, like how kind of far off they've fallen, and to not win any of their games so far in the Champions League is crazy. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't want to I'm not trying to take away from United in terms of saying that PSG were rubbish, because it would have been easy, I think, for United to get rattled, and it's kind of credit to that whole defence that they didn't, even though it felt like they could have. And yeah, 2 brilliant goals. Mallard's is a great finish. The Rolfo one is really well worked. And yeah, United look in a good position. I mean, they've got 3 tough games to come: Wolfsburg, Lyon, and Juve.
But they've set themselves up really
really, really, really well.
And also, think about those first 2 games, which were their easier ones. Atletico Madrid, Valerenga, they come through those, but neither of them were great performances, but they still got the wins. So if you give yourself that head start, you've got a bit of a kind of buffer.
And it's like the opposite of Arsenal, where they've put themselves under so much pressure. And obviously they had their more difficult games first, so it's just the way that the league phase goes. But yeah, United can look at that. They're in the top 4 right now. They can look at that and be like, okay, we're in a really good spot to qualify. And you don't need a great performance if you're winning a game, because that gives them confidence that you see their performances are getting better. Like last night was better, and they can take those forward and try and put up a good fight against the pot 1 teams.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. The Wolfsburg game's gonna be interesting. Wolfsburg are a bit ropey, but they still have really good individual talents. And then the Lyon one is the one you think is going to be really tough, but they would probably they'd probably go into that thinking, okay, even if we drop points there, looking at what we've done so far. And Juve, they could definitely beat Juve.
You want to win at Juve, you want to ideally get a draw away at Wolfsburg, and whatever happens against Lyon happens. Yeah. I think that's... But, Becky, I totally agree. They've set themselves up in a really good place. The pressure is not off those games, but like the pressure is minimized on those games. They can go into them and know that they're not like, we have to win or we're going out of this, we're not going to qualify for the next stage. Like they probably can almost be certain of at least getting in the top 12. So.
And also I think you see it a lot with like teams that are already relegated and the pressure is completely off, and like they just pull out like these incredible like performances because it's like the pressure is gone. Like you don't go into that thinking, God, we need this, we really, really need this. So I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of go into, those tougher games with Wolfsburg and Lyon and see them more relaxed because they know that it's not like a result that they have to rely on, and they can put in a good performance that like if they had to win that game, I think the performance could be like lesser because you're like, fuck, we've got to do it.
When you look at the top 4 of the league phase, Barcelona have had a lot of big wins. Their goal difference is ridiculous. Plus 13. Lyon, Manchester United and Chelsea. I mean, crazy. United are playing with the big boys at the moment. Yeah. Obviously, with the way the fixtures run, it's, that can kind of skew things a little bit. But then you've got Real Madrid 5th, Wolfsburg, Juve, Bayern Munich, Leuven, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal in 11th with just the 1 win. But you'd expect more points to come with these next few games. Vålerenga, Twente, Paris FC, Benfica, and then on 0 points, PSG, Roma, who are a shadow of their former selves, and St Polten, who... Let's talk about their 6-0 defeat to Chelsea. It is... I feel for St Polten because they were poor and...
St Polten.
It's tough because the gap is huge. I mean, it's a game where you're like, oh,
Are they playing PSG at any point? Pick up some points there.
The poor goalie who was interviewed on Disney afterwards.
Exam.
She is a trainee medical student. She had an exam the next day and she was playing in goal.
Good.
She did make some important saves, which is tough when you're looking at a 6-0 defeat. But it comes under, it could have been a lot worse. The banana skin here, Jessy, for Chelsea, although it wasn't really going to play out that way just because the gap was so huge. We didn't have Hannah Hampton because she was not in the squad that travelled.
What Etsy witch has Mary Earps done? No Fallon, no Hannah. Noticing.
So we had Livia Payne starting, but it was a very quiet night for her. And there was lots of change. Sonia Pompastor really said, all the girlies who were...
You get a game.
You get a game. Lucy Bronze at centre-back and a back 4, alongside Naomi Girma. First sight of her this season.
It's so exciting because, like, where have they been hiding her? I kind of forgot about her.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot she existed.
She'd been on the bench, but it's the first time we've seen her play this season, which is good news for Pompastor. And then we had Sam Kerr starting, her first start of the season. And then Lauren James, back from injury, long time out, was obviously classic injury mystery about when she was really going to return. But she was back, played a part in, was it the 5th or 6th goal? That was an own goal, but played her part in it. And Jessy, it felt like, for me,
no mention for Captain Kiki Kizzy-Walsh.
Sorry, Captain
Can you imagine
Kira
if
Walsh.
you'd said this time last year that Kira Walsh would be captaining Chelsea a year from now?
Pompastor must have seen what Serena Wiegmann has planned for the Kira Walsh captaincy and said, I want a bit of that. But overall, Jessy, for me, it was the kind of... It felt like the Chelsea comebacks game of we can afford to, so we're going to give some minutes to all these players who've been out.
Yeah, I mean, Kerr, I think getting a start has been a long time coming and perfect game for that. I mean, I think my anxiety around this game a bit off the back of like Twente, who I think probably are a better team from what we saw of St Polten, but was, if a team are going to sit back against you, if you can't sort of pull away early, it only increases the pressure. And because Chelsea have drawn a game already, they did really need a win and a comprehensive win, because it's going to be interesting to see how much goal difference has a role to play. So yeah, Kerr starting I think was great, and she, in true Sam Kerr fashion, missed a lot of chances, then scored some chances. I thought she looked pretty good, to be honest. I think obviously there's like a rustiness there, but just that ability to miss. You know, like it sounds silly, but she misses because she gets into a lot of good positions. And I just think the number of things that were coming off her foot, coming off her head, are really exciting. And I haven't really known what to make of Kerr in this Chelsea team. I've kind of just sort of accepted that she might kind of be a super sub now, you know, that she might not have a really serious role to play at Chelsea this season, and who knows, like in the future. I think this, you know, watching this was kind of the first reminder of like, oh, you know, like there's a good chance there's still a very good player there.
Both her goals felt like classic Kerr goals in that good
and her
movement.
goal scoring's been ridiculous because Jackie Oatley on comms, and I kind of understand this, you know, like there's a lot of excitement around Kerr coming back, her first, but it was almost like Oatley and I think it was Anita Asante with her, like felt anxious about Kerr, but I'm like, she's actually already scored twice, and this was only her first start back, so it's kind of like, it's just amazing that, like, you know, she's on 4 goals for the season now already, which just is bizarre.
I think her instinct, and this is where you see the difference in level of players, is the girls that get it.
That's what I mean about the ability to miss.
Her instinct is unbelievable. Just that natural. You've been out the game so long. Obviously, she's come on as a sub, so she's locked in a little bit already. She's not coming in completely cold this season. But your raw instinct for your positioning and your finishing is so good that the way she anticipates to finish and the way she's just in the right areas and the way... That's the difference between Sam Kerr and Estina Blackstenius. Like that you just can't teach
Estina being
that.
like, why you gotta bring me into this?
So you just can't teach that. It's just always there. It's always there. And that's what I find so impressive about her. Because watching her in this game, yes, the marking is not good. And they make it easy. But she makes it look so easy.
The thing that Sam Kerr is like an incredible footballer, but the thing that she is like incredible at and that will never leave you, even when you're physically injured, is that instinct. Because it is scary. Like, I'm nervous for her coming back because I'm like, oh, I love her so much and I want her to be the star that she was. And it's kind of like scary to think that like she might not ever be that player again. But like the bits that we have seen, you think, okay, obviously she's not been in like a real big test of a match, I don't think. I think
guess
the matches that she's played in have been
the question will be whether she probably won't physically be able to play enough to ever have a season like she did when she was Golden Boot winner and you're bagging 20 goals plus, because I just think, and that's the same for Miedema, I just think physically after you're of a certain age, after a certain injury, I just don't think you can do that again. I just think she's not going to be able to play enough.
I don't know if that's the case.
I think immediately,
do you think I'm being
when she's
too
come
harsh?
back,
Yeah.
It took Miedema so long.
Well, I think one, it's very hard to compare like across these different injuries, and you know, Kerr's been out for 2 years. That's basically
crazy.
Like, and I think with Viv, for example, it felt like maybe, I mean, who knows with Kerr, but maybe some players would be better off taking a full 18 months rather than coming back after 11, then having to get out again. You know, Viv also, she changed her position, she changed her club. Like, there are so many other factors, whereas I think, you know, Kerr's in a position where it's an environment she knows. Okay, some of the players have changed, but she's slotting back in kind of the exact same thing she's always done. I think in terms of whether, you know, she'll sort of be able to play a full season as a 9, I think you've just got to wait and see. Because that's what I mean about the amount of time she's spent out. On the one hand, that I think makes it feel like she's totally broken. But the flip side of that is, well, maybe that's like taking sort of every precaution possible so that when she does come back, she is ready to like play a proper role.
She is
But
32
I get
now, though. That is... We were saying Chloe Kelly was old before and she was 27.
I just think you can't really know like what
Yeah,
but Jessy,
impact
so
an
many
injury is
variables
gonna
and-
have
I know
on
she's
someone's
been.
body.
I know she's been out until now for Bompastor's entire time in the club, but I also get the impression that Chelsea don't see her as their starting 9 and don't need her in that way anymore because they built so much in her absence. But I mean,
I think it all depends on I think basically it's like you're trying to look in a crystal ball. Like, I think there's a perfect possibility that Kerr does come back to a high level, and you know, like, I really like Aggie. and I think she will be an elite 9. But I think she's still like raw and learning, and she has great moments and she has not so great moments. I don't think Myra Ramirez has ever really made that position her own at Chelsea, and she's shown herself to be incredibly injury prone. Caterina Macario, again, hasn't really been able to make the 9 position hers, even though I kind of enjoy her playing there. So I think to that extent, the irony is I kind of feel like if Kerr can be fit enough, she can walk back into that position. It's not that Chelsea have been able to replace her, really, which I think is also a mark of her own quality. You know, that's an very hard... And I kind of feel like it's a bit of the Billie Bean thing. Chelsea have tried to replace Sam Kerr in the aggregate rather than... Because you can't find that player unless you're going to get, like, maybe a Bunny or a Katoto. So I think in that sense, I kind of feel like that door is open, especially because... those other players that I've kind of mentioned, they're not pure 9s. Like, Sam Kerr starting as a 9 doesn't preclude Beaver Jones playing. It doesn't really preclude Ramirez even playing. Because, you know, in her past, she's played, like, in a front 2. She sort of played off the wing. Kerr spent time playing off the wing when Bethany England played as 9 for Chelsea. So I think it's an interesting problem for Bompastor to have. And I think in terms of how much Kerr can contribute, that's going to be a question of her physical ability, and that's something that I feel like we just don't really know right now. And I understand why you're pessimistic, and maybe I'm being overly optimistic. And I agree, I don't think Chelsea season relies on it necessarily, but I think in those like flashes, I thought even against Arsenal when she came on, like her ability to rattle defenders, her ability to kind of hold up the ball, her ability to be that outlet, you can still see it there in that moment, in those moments, and it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of months how much of that she can put together.
I think you see that in going back to like the Miedemar comparison as well. I think you see that in her performances. It's just about getting that consistent game time for her, because she's not only had to come back from the ACL injury and then the change to City, but she's also had other injuries that have kept her out. So it feels like she needs that real run of being able to play an entire season and not also be moved around positionally, because they've got Bunny. Her first season under Gareth Taylor, Miedemar was playing in all sorts of roles.
Don't say that name to me.
And that is really hard. Whereas at least with Kerr, she knows where she's coming in to slot in pretty much most of the time. And that is a lot easier to digest. And also part of that was end of Miedemar's time at Arsenal, where the whole debate was, is she going to play as a 10? Is she going to play as a 9? And where did she want to play and what role did she want to play? And so I think that also makes her this kind of more... I feel like she's changed so much from the Miedemar we knew in her prime when she was putting however many goals past Bristol City in that ridiculous game with the WSL. It's a different situation now. And do those clubs even need those players to reach 20 goals again? Because they've got other options.
Sorry, I actually just had like a horrible... I was like, haha, bring Bristol City back for Sam Kerr. And then I was like, oh, Liverpool are that team now. And then I realised that we're playing them this weekend. And I had a horrible like...
You are the last team to beat us in the league.
Really?
Well, yeah, 33 games.
That's
Chelsea
crazy that's the last time you lost in the league. That's wild. That was so long ago.
I know.
Oh, what a game that was. Run it back. Run it back.
Well, let's quickly talk about the games this weekend then, because we've got the North London
to?
derby. We've got the Manchester
I'd
derby.
like to not.
And
Liverpool don't exist.
we've got Chelsea-Liverpool.
It's not happening. It's not happening. Doesn't exist.
Liverpool away has always been a cursed game for us. So
Also, it's not the Totally Wicked Stadium anymore. Do you know that?
what is it now?
It's
They could have done a Wicked tie-in.
So true. Wicked for good.
Yeah, totally
Liverpool.
Wicked for good stadium.
Oh my god, I forgot how bad it is now.
Gareth Taylor's
Guys,
Fiero. Who would Sonia be?
Guys,
I think she'd be Elphaba rather than Glinda.
it's the Brewdog Stadium.
Fuck
Oh
off.
no!
The Brewdog Stadium. When did that happen? No wonder you've not won all season.
Wow.
Oh, it happened like a few weeks
Becky,
ago.
why didn't you tell us? This
Because
is
it's
huge.
embarrassing.
Brewdog
It's
Stadium.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Wow. I thought Brewdog were like going past.
Well, it's also Rugby Stadium. That's
they've
why it's a
closed
Brewdog.
loads.
That's why it's Brewdog now, because
They've closed
that's the wankers that drink.
but they've closed loads
Yeah,
of their
no.
pubs and stuff. I thought, I mean, not this is like a business
Did you think
podcast,
the
but-
Totally Wicked vape brand was also flush?
I don't know.
Yeah, apparently it's a really cheap
Brewdog.
Should we sponsor the stadium?
Yeah, maybe we
Counter
should.
Press
Stadium.
Stadium.
Oh, I'd love that.
So we've got Manchester Derby on Saturday, North London Derby on Sunday, and Liverpool-Chelsea on Sunday, as well as Villa, London City Lionesses, West Ham, Everton, and Brighton, Leicester City. Manchester Derby will be a fun one.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's like last season, both games were brilliant. The World Sevens Derby was brilliant.
Manchester Derby's always a fun one. It is sad that we don't have Chloe Kelly there anymore for badge tapping.
Can we just loan her back just for that one game?
Yeah,
But
take her back for a
hopefully
game.
Lauren Hemp's
And she
back.
does a half on each side and celebrates for both teams.
Lauren Hemp's back. Obviously, Bunny Shaw. She always does something good. And I think if Melvin Mallard scores, she's going to have a celebration up her sleeve. So we should get excited for that.
Also, do you
Jess
think
Park return
South-
game.
South
Grace Clinton
Milton
return game.
Patel will play.
Well, yeah,
That's
I know.
another
Looks
big
like
game.
it.
Another
Big game.
It looks like it. So they keep coming. And then North London Derby.
North London Derby's so intriguing because after Spurs lost to London City Lionesses, I was like, ugh, we're not getting the enjoyment of them being above Arsenal. And then I was like, I feel like Arsenal are going to have an easy win. And now, because of this Bayern game, I'm
They're
like,
rattled.
they're rattled. Who knows what plan does Tinker Tamberg have for me? And I hope it's a good one.
Are you going?
I am going. I will be on the scariest gantry in the WSL, right at the top with
is
the
it really
pigeon
high?
spikes. Yeah, it's on the
Is it?
fifth
Where is
floor.
it? At Leighton.
Yeah, because the boxing's at
I
Spurs.
love Leighton.
I'm really looking forward to it because women's games at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium always feel
Crap.
a little bit dead
Yeah.
to me. Even when Spurs won, which was obviously really funny,
Yeah.
it still felt a little bit dead. Whereas I'm hoping Brisbane Road
Yeah.
is popping. Quite a good time, 2:30 on a Sunday.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
I
it.
have plans for a walk with my friends, but also they're women's football fans, so maybe I'll just say,
Walk to a pub.
why don't we walk to Leighton?
Why don't you walk to Signature Brew in Haggerston to go to Flo's
Perfect, love
Yeah,
it.
come.
Well, I was saying maybe we go to the game, but maybe we'll come.
Come, it's going to be fun. Shirts,
I teed you
books.
up so well with that. You don't even
Thank
seem
you. No,
pleased.
I'm doing,
Do your
sorry,
promo.
thank you. Doing another plug. We're doing a plug on Monday. Come and join us. Signature Brew in Haggerston. We're going to have books, merch, football shirts, as well as screening WSL games and
I am on a
Newcastle
budget.
Sunderland in WSL too, because it's not the only derby
That is fun.
this weekend. It's not just in the WSL.
I'm on a budget, so I just don't think I can be around football shirts.
Yeah,
That's
is
so
true.
fair.
Can't do it.
It's a
Can't
bit
live
of a
around them.
lure.
After I spend that £20 processing fee, I've got no money.
Man City, just want to go back to Man City because we've still got the injury mysteries because Alex Greenwood signed a new contract, still don't know how long she's injured for. Grace Clinton, still don't know how long she's injured for. The injury mysteries are just, people need to come clean on their injuries because it's extremely annoying.
But
know
can
what?
I say City are distracting me well with their social media
Yeah.
content.
Interesting, yeah.
Really good social
Alex
media.
Greenwood being given jeggings for her contract extension. Love, love, love. And if you haven't seen the players designing their own Manchester Derby
So
posters
good.
on paint, please
Oh,
go
I don't-
that sounds
ASAP.
fun.
I
It is
don't-
so funny.
I don't know who is now doing the City social content, but whoever you are, I'm absolutely loving
They're
it.
my
used to
favourite
love-
social
the-
I used to
person
love
right
paint
now.
when I was a kid.
I know,
Just
and
go
I was
on.
literally sat there being like,
Should I
does
go
this
on
mean I
paint?
can get it on my... Can I download it for my Mac? How does
Yeah.
it work?
I think you can just go on
I can go to browser.
a browser. I used to do these.
Straight to
Maybe-
the Observer
maybe
office to
I'll-
spend my afternoon doing that.
Maybe I'll do it again. I used to do these. This is a good one. This is an easy activity on paint. You do 2 dots, and then you just draw loads of like lines in between the 2 dots, and then they cross over, and then you fill in all of the like little triangles and things with different colours.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
like
really
that.
pretty.
You know, there's the podcast derby in the future.
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
you design a poster for that on paint?
Yes,
that would be a lot of fun.
I
think.
absolutely. Well, maybe me and Honor could
rival posters.
rival poster.
Okay, I'll suggest.
It's the Screamers Gold Diggers. Sorry, that's Screamers Counterpressed Derby
via
Gold
respective
Diggers and
football
Ex-Girlfriend FC. So,
For context.
It's not till March, so you got some time.
and also that it's because it was supposed to be in November and then it
So
got
I
moved, so
feel
there's
like-
2 in a row in March. Maybe we should get the fans down, Screamers fans and Counterpress fans.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay, we'll do a big hype up and
Yeah,
thing
let's
for
do an
that.
episode about it.
Wow.
Can you analyse our performances?
I will
Should
be.
we get a drone
I will be
flying above?
analysing. I'm going to bring a really high chair so I can get a good view.
Okay, let's leave that there. We will see you on Monday. Talk about all those derbies. Enjoy the games. We'll see you then.